Welcome to the Linux Saloon, a place to discuss tech, open source, and where Linux is always on tap. And it's a delicious tap of all kinds of open source goodness. Each show we have a talk about a Linux project, such as Linux distribution, a desktop environment or application. We also chat about the news or any variety of topics. Anything that is Linux tech and open source related is on the table for discussion. I'm Nate, a Linux fitness and vintage tech enthusiast with an almost unhealthy obsession with the OpenSUSE project, specifically probably more Tumbleweed, if I'm actually really going to talk about it. Probably Tumbleweed. I like it. But with me today, I have a fantastic group of people here. I've got Ben, Seeker, Eris, Dale, Cruz, Ricky, who turned off his camera. I don't know why. What? Swift, and Galaxy Tab A. Well, that's exciting. Galaxy Tab A. I've never had Samsung here before, so welcome. How was everybody?
Excellent.
Having a heck of a day.
Enjoying our visit.
Well, fantastic.
It's fun to be on the Saloon with everybody.
Yeah, it's fun to have you here on the Saloon. So be sure to do the straw poll. We actually have 2 straw polls tonight. So Eris went above and beyond, as he always does, but he went above and beyond with 2 straw polls, where we have about your graphics cards on your laptop and non-laptop system. So if you could go ahead and knock that out here pretty quick, that would be great. So on the docket for today, we got an open mic night. So, anything that is Linux tech and open source related is basically what we can talk about. Try and keep it on the positive, on the upbeat, and on the fun. And then I'll do a little housekeeping. We got a community free pour coming up. Do our last call, but and then the straw poll will be the first thing how we kick it all off. But first, what I'm doing in Linux and tech, I'm actually really excited to talk to you about a thing that I ended up doing this past week. So I don't know if does anyone here ever use anything like Cockpit or Proxmox or anything like that?
I've played with it for fun. Proxmox a lot, actually. I played with it a lot for fun, but I never really did anything productive.
Okay. Yeah, I've never actually used Proxmox, and
it's really actually cool.
Is it?
Yeah, I actually got my Raspberry Pi for I could dump an image on it and launch it right off of it.
Oh. Yeah.
I never believe I did it.
But I have considered looking at it for some Mac OS reasons, but that's to come later, maybe.
Well, I instead of Proxmox, I played with Cockpit, but I'm gonna kind of start this off. So a little bit of background story, and I gotta be careful here because there is a little bit of like an NDA thing, so I gotta be kind of careful here on how I talk about this. But so for work, they're starting a new project. In this project, it's a separate business unit, and they want to keep things separate. And this is not a dig on anybody who does any of the planning and whatnot, but IT was an afterthought. I know that probably comes to you as a bit of a surprise. Maybe not. I don't know. But anyway, there was basically no budget for servers and so forth. And so the CTO that I work with on like the large projects there's the IT side and the OT side of the operational technology. I'm sorry, Jinder, you're familiar with that whole division of things. You got all the PLC and controls on one end, and then all the IT stuff on the other end.
Yeah, I've played with enough PLCs to try to run away from them.
and these two shall not cross, or something like that.
Yeah, the PLCs, I don't know if how many people are really familiar with them, but they are kind of old school, but they still use them drastically.
Yeah.
I mean, I like an elevator usually uses a PLC, believe it or not. I know my sister was complaining the PLC went down in the local jail that she had to fix, and she was throwing a fit. But hey.
Yeah, no, it happens. Yeah, I imagine there's some kind of controller, some sort of a something of that sort that controls an elevator. You'd have some kind of a smarts in there.
Right.
But anyway, so there wasn't a lot of forethought. I mean, okay, in the overarching thing, lots of great planning and actually pretty amazing stuff that they got together in a very short bit of time. So what was but the IT side of it was we got to get the easy part was they understood, getting computers and whatnot, but they didn't really think about like the servers. So I had originally said, well, we can use the existing OT servers for managing this. And then the engineers kind of like, ooh, I don't know, we're kind of pushing a little bit already with the computational and RAM usage. So I'd really prefer not to mix these two. I'm like, okay, got it. And so I said, well, we can buy some servers, and I gave some prices. And basically I was told, well, that's not really in the budget. So do you have any other options? And the company that the software says, well, you can really run it on a desktop if you really wanted to. It doesn't require that much. It's just a SQL and a couple of other VMs that need to be running so they can do some things. They could be on bare metal. They were really not very picky about it. And so I knew that on the shelf, this is in our Texas plant, there was some old servers there. And they're about, I think, 10 years, maybe 12 years old, I think. And so anyway, I said, I did some reading, research in the specs and whatnot. And although I did not know if they were actually functional before going down there, so that they were basically untested, I decided that I would refurbish these old systems that actually, they were like the original, like they were used when the plant got them initially because of reasons, and so they were used for the construction of the whole plant, and they'd been sitting on a shelf for probably 8 years. So the engineer down there kind of combined, so like there's actually only one CPU in each, so he put the two CPUs in one and the cooler and everything else, and moved the fan, so it had enough fans in one of them. I ordered 256 gigabytes of RAM and then 8 new 1.2 terabyte drives from HP. And so I put this thing together, new thermal paste on the CPUs, basically got it got it functional, basically kind of brought it up to the specifications of what we need to be able to do all these things. And then there was no budget. I decided that I would just go the complete open source route. So I put OpenSUSE on there and Cockpit and as the virtual machine manager thing. And I'd used it at home a little bit, but there's some things I just didn't know quite how to do. And so I was worried about basically bridging the virtual network to the actual LAN, right? And so, because I didn't successfully do that at home, so I didn't know how to do that. And I've actually since figured it out. But anyway, so there's like that. I wasn't sure about that. I wasn't sure like the condition of these systems, if they were stable. A lot of things I just didn't know. I didn't know if like HP was going to send me any bum drives and I'd be like down a drive. I didn't know if all the RAM was going to work and so forth. So there's just a lot of variables. And I think I put in some of the Telegram chat like as I was working on it a little bit. Anyway, long story short, or long story less long, I got it going. Everything worked, so there was no issues there. I got Cockpit going on OpenSUSE. I built the VMs. I set because it was on a separate VLAN, so I got everything kind of situated on the right VLAN, bridging the right interfaces to go to the right places, and the management on the management VLAN. So I basically divided everything up like it's supposed to be, and it's working. Opened up the routing for RDP so that these contractors can come in and do what they have to do to set things up so they can do what they have to do with their servers, and basically got everything in place in essentially 3 days. I had three working days, but they're like 12-hour days, so whatever. And it's actually really great. And I think if you've never played with Cockpit before, which I think this similar will be Proxmox, I think that's basically the same. It's kind of the same technology, but with different drapes essentially, different they both use KVM. It's all the same stuff essentially underneath. Anyway, it's a really nice interface, and I like it. Works great on OpenSUSE. So if you're an OpenSUSE guy or Fedora, I know it works great on those too. I haven't used it on Fedora, but I'm guessing, making a supposition, as it were. And it was pretty great. I had a lot of fun, and I think the final result was I was very excited that it all worked. The powers that be are very happy with it. And I think the other thing too is I believe I can get if I need to, like a service contract on the server, because I'm just using, OpenSUSE, which is SUSE. And as far as like, I could do this, I could move it over to like a SUSE box, SUSE server or whatever. So anyway, that's where I am with that. And yeah, it worked out great. And the interface is nice and clean for managing the VMs. And also, today what I learned, this is kind of as an aside, does anybody here use Virt Manager, like the application for managing virtual machines? Yeah, no, you have. So here's what's really cool.
Yeah, I've used it.
Yeah, okay. Here's what's really cool. And I just learned this. I just kind of figured it out today, essentially, how to do it. I haven't really looked at it before. But here's what's really cool. You can connect, like I have my server in the basement. It's got, it's running Cockpit, and I have 3 virtual machines running on it. One of them is Windows 98, so it's not like it's a really that big of a deal. But anyway, I can connect KVM, like the Virt Manager interface, a session to that downstairs from my server, and I can pull up those VMs like they're sitting on my computer here. Obviously, there's some latency because of whatever, but combine that with like Tailscale, and you can be remote, be anywhere connecting to your stuff, and manage things or bring stuff up, whatever application. Maybe you have an application specific running on a specific VM or whatever that only runs there. You can do all that, and I think that's really cool. I'm pretty impressed by the whole thing, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. And it's just a whole new, like, I don't know where I've been like all my last 20 years of Linuxing, but this is all kind of like a whole new world. I'm not gonna like start singing that song, but it's a whole new world of just some really cool, fun things that you can do with open source software. So anyway, really cool stuff. If you have not checked out, Cockpit or Proxmox or the things you can do, and you have a need for running VMs, maybe remotely or whatever, I highly recommend it. I think it's super cool and a lot of fun once you kind of really figure it out. And if you have questions, ask me. I probably don't have your answers, but I'd be glad to tell you I don't know.
Do you have Ethernet in your home?
Yeah, Ethernet? Yeah, I get Ethernet in the house. Not everywhere, but I do have Ethernet. So it's gigabit. Why is that? Was that something? Is there a follow-up question to that one?
Oh, because I was just wondering because you were connecting to your server who's upstairs, downstairs, so that would help a lot.
Yeah, it would. I should actually, I don't have Ethernet from here down there, but I think that's something I should do. Like when I'm in my lab, it's all Etherneted up, and then I have a wireless bridge, which I guess that's not Ethernet, but it's close enough. So I got the wireless, I think it's AC, whatever. I got that 5 gigahertz band, so I don't know if that means anything.
So you have a wireless bridge?
Yeah, from here to Cubicle Labs, because it's like
what do you use for that, for the wireless bridge?
Well, I'm so glad you asked. I've got an article on cubiclenate.com for that. Let's see if I can find it here real quick before Jinda beats me to it. The wireless bridge. Let's see if it pops up. Oh, here we go. Let's see if will Jinda beat me? That's the question. So this is what I'm using. Aha! I beat him. So this is this is what I use. I got these things on Scamazon. And they're pretty simple. It's this Ku Wi-Fi, whatever. And I'm sure there's others, but it's this 5.9 gigahertz connection at 900 megabits per second. So it's not full gigabit, but there you go. It's supposed to have a range of 2 to 3 kilometers. So I figured 300 feet is well within. It should be fine. If I walk in front of it, I get a little warm, but I figure that's okay.
It's interesting how they form these words or these new names now. Cool Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
there's not even like a vowel next to W.
Goofy. Yeah. So anyway, that bridges the 2 buildings. I mean, I could have buried Ethernet, but I think that'd been more problematic. Because really, I mean, I'd have to go under concrete and everything else, and I just didn't want to deal with that. So anyway. But I do need Ethernet in this room. That would make my life better, I think. Maybe someday. Well, all right. I think I've bored everyone to tears on that one. So, not Jinda. Eris. Isaac, Esau, I can't tell you two apart. Eris, I don't know, the Strawpoll that you've been working on. This is a good one. So you got this one from Vince, right?
Yeah, this is Vince's idea.
Okay.
Yeah, he's Vince. So hopefully everybody voted already. We'll go with let's see, on laptop first. So select the GPUs inside your most used non-laptop computer. Number one answer with 35% was AMD dedicated, followed by 16% NVIDIA dedicated. And this is again non-laptop. And then followed by 16, I only use laptops. That's a significant percentage. Followed by 10% AMD APU, 10% Intel integrated, 3% AMD integrated, 3% Intel Arc, and 3% NVIDIA integrated. Also 3% Tux Penguin. And as far as the select the GPUs inside your most used laptop, 40% was Intel integrated, followed by 20% AMD integrated, 13% NVIDIA dedicated, 10% AMD APU, 10% NVIDIA integrated, 3% I only use non-laptops, 3% Tux Penguin. Nobody picked AMD dedicated for a laptop, and nobody picked Intel Arc for a laptop.
Well, I'd guess no Intel Arc because I don't think they're very new.
They do exist. I think I looked them up. They do exist.
But I think you have to have the Ultra series.
They're newish, so so you would need to have recent hardware. I didn't get any replies for any of these polls.
So my laptop here is Intel integrated, the Iris Xe. Is that what it's called? The Iris Chi?
Yeah, Iris Xe.
Xe.
I think it's Xe. I don't know if they pronounced differently, but I assume it's just the initials.
So
I have graphics on my laptop made. Just call it Xe.
I think Chi is fun to say though.
Yeah, however you want to say this.
But then you're gonna confuse it with the wireless Qi charging system.
You're right. Okay, wireless Xe. I mean, yeah, integrate Intel Xe. Got it. All right. And then the other thing I was gonna say. So what's the difference between AMD integrated and AMD APU?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing.
It's not.
Oh, it's not.
Oh, sorry, Eris.
It's not because some CPUs, the way they're like structured, that it's I don't know how to like specifically like explain it, but it's because everything's so close together, it's one chip versus the AMD, which is like separated a little bit more, the integrated one. So you could have, I mean, technically it is the same, like integrated would be the same, but it's not because it's like it's a newer technology, and because you could have a like say AMD integrated doesn't necessarily you have an APU.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. But it's kind of the same, but it's not.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things about the APUs is that they used to have really good frameworks in some games, better than like some dedicated GPUs in some scenarios.
Yeah, I read that, and I don't know if, I mean, it seems kind of hard to believe.
Yeah, it's mostly like not very graphic intensive games.
Okay. So like Stanley Parable or Portal.
I think it's like maybe like Fortnite, like these online games. I think kind of like that.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. So, and as far as like the desktop side of this too, I want to look at those polls again. So your non-laptop. Why'd you say non-laptop? Because like could be a server. Is that why?
Oh, because I wanted to separate laptops because it's such a like a special case. Because you would think that there's not gonna be a lot of dedicated GPUs as much because it's a laptop, and I could have gone further, but that just seemed like 3 polls seemed too much trouble. Like I also wonder how many people are using a computer that's not a laptop and it's not a tower. You know, it could be like an all-in-one, or it could be one of those Nooks,
right?
Really tiny computers. But that's like the problem with polls is it's hard to polls like set up a poll so it grabs all as much info as you want, but it gets too complicated if I added that into this.
Right, that makes sense. Yeah. So like if you have a NUC, someone might not consider that a desktop necessarily. It's just non-laptop.
Yeah, non-laptop.
Non-laptop.
So this should grab non-laptop, all-in-ones, towers,
Right.
mini computers, I guess too.
Yeah, I get one of those. So would this be considered, like behind me, this pink one, would that be considered a laptop or non-laptop?
I think that's a non-laptop, right? A laptop usually means it's something you open and close the screen. Since you can't move that monitor, I wouldn't call it a laptop.
Okay.
That's the kind of like the things that I would say is a laptop.
Call that like a tabletop?
No. I mean, technically now laptops can be like kind of like tablets too.
Right.
Kinda. They switch the monitor around.
Yes, like a
Those convertibles, like
Right.
the Yoga.
Or then we have like a Surface. That's like that would be considered. Would this be considered a laptop?
That's a laptop, right? You open it, close it.
Well, it has
It has a keyboard integrated.
no. It's a the kind that pulls apart. So I mean I don't know how that.
That's how your framework is.
No. This is I just put the framework sticker over the Windows sticker.
Oh, I
Windows
think
logo.
if the keyboard is not built in, it's not a laptop.
So this is not a laptop. So
It's a tablet.
okay. Well, look at that. You can see all my stuff there. It's kind of fun. Woo! Too many screens.
So like the Surface Pro, that's a laptop. Even if it has that good keyboard that gets like aluminum or something, it's still a laptop. I mean, it's still a tablet. It's not a laptop because the keyboard is not built in.
Okay. But if a tablet does laptop-y things, then you can. But maybe.
It's still a tablet. Like
Okay.
with a keyboard somehow integrated or attached to it, but it's not like built in.
Adam says you need to use your big kid voice. I think he's saying you're too quiet. Adam, you can join your big kid voice too. Hey, did I tell you that I met Adam face to face? Did I tell you that already? Did I talk about that? Yeah, it was at the Vintage Computer Fest Midwest, and actually met him. Got pictures together. It was great. I wish I had more time. That's all. Anyway, yeah, I think it seems like the what is a laptop versus a tablet to me, just like those lines getting blurred a little bit, I think. But maybe it's a tablet if it because like the Surface, like it can't the keyboard provides no structural anything. It's just attached. You have to have that little kickstand in the back. So maybe would that be the limit? What do you got there, Dale?
This is a Lenovo 2-in-1 tablet,
Okay.
laptop tablet.
Well, it looks great because I see you're running Plasma.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So see,
And computer, spin it around, tablet.
and I know it shuts off the keyboard when you do that too, correct?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. And so is that handled in software? Or is that handled in the firmware of the device itself?
It's handled in firmware. You have to have sensors installed, which most of them do by default.
Mm-hmm.
And once you spin it around, it turns off the keyboard, and then your virtual keyboard takes over. In the case of Plasma, Malite keyboard.
Oh, sorry. What was it? What was the keyboard? Malite?
Malite, M-A-L-I-I-T.
M-A-L-I-I-T?
M-A-L-I-I-T hyphen keyboard.
Okay. All right. See, I think you just. Oh my gosh. I think you. Thank you very much for this, because I've been looking for a good keyboard for a tablet. Because I like this goofy HP tablet thing. And
Malite keyboard is specifically only for using Wayland and Plasma, and it only activates when you touch the screen if you have a touch screen.
Okay, and that's totally cool, because that's perfect, exactly how I want to use it. So, oh man, this is cool. This is great. Hey, thank you very much. See, okay, all right, I got what I need out of the show. All right, good night, everybody.
I'll be honest. I'll be honest with you. It doesn't work great. It works good when it works. It's a little hit and miss. I really wish Plasma would make their own integrated virtual keyboard. Hint, hint, Plasma, KDE team.
So the Plasma Mobile, that keyboard works pretty great. So
And does that work on Wayland? Is the question. Because I only everything here is Wayland, except for those two.
Okay. Yeah, pretty much everything except for my VMs. They're all Wayland. So, all right. Well, I'm gonna have to check that out. I'm sure it's gonna get better and better as things go on. So, cool. That's awesome. Did you have to do anything special to configure it?
Once you get it installed, go into Plasma settings, go to keyboard. Let's see, go to settings, go to input, go to virtual keyboard, and it should be an option sitting there waiting for you to activate it.
Look at that. Malite or Malite? I don't know how to say it.
Yeah. I don't know how to say it. I say Malite. I don't know.
I like open source software just because they always have silly names for everything. So the yeah, that's I'm gonna see what that. So if I hit 3, yeah, it's in the regular OpenSUSE repositories. Bam!
Yes.
Look at that. Fantastic. Hot dog. That's great. Well, all right, learned something new. But yeah, I'm so confused now. Like, what's a laptop anymore? What is a computer? It's like the what was that?
Those all-in-ones now and the mini computers, they use laptop parts, so that also confuses things further.
Yeah, it does. Like that Atari VCS you can buy. I don't know if it's like $180 now. The price is really low on it. That uses laptop class hardware in it, but it's not. It doesn't have battery or anything like that. It's a desk, a living room appliance essentially. So anyway, yeah, good times. So confusing, but I like it. I like the confusion. Trying to figure out what is something through discussion. I'm curious, Jinda, do you have any crazy hardware?
Mentally insane, maybe, yeah, but
yeah,
not crazy.
Okay, all right. Undiagnosed crazy.
Yeah, undiagnosed crazy. Not really, no. You know, I actually have one of those really cute little wireless keyboards for my Raspberry Pi, but I think everybody has one of those now, right?
I think so too. Yeah, I use mine or have used mine for my Steam Deck. Yeah,
yeah, same thing. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really. I have pretty boring stuff, guys. Sorry.
It's all good. What about you, Ricky? Do you have any like strange hardware, something that you're not really sure where it falls under? Oh, I'm sorry. I caught you off guard. I apologize. I don't really apologize. I think it's fun when I can catch you off guard. It's more fun that way. He lost his button.
There we go. I found it. Okay, what was your question?
Do you have any like crazy like non-standard hardware? So like a desktop is a desktop, like a tower or whatever, and then a laptop is a laptop, and then there's other like kind of crazy other devices, like the Surface tablet laptop thingies that you can use them like a laptop, but they're kind of more of a tablet. Then you have Nux. Nux are I don't know what the heck are Nux even? Are they a desktop? Are they a lap? I mean, not a laptop. They're a
they're like a small factor desktop computer. That's
yes, a small form factor. Yeah, small form factor. It uses the same plug as a laptop often, like the same kind of power supply, but it's a desktop, essentially. Yeah. Do you have anything like kind of a little crazy, little off the beaten path?
The main technology that is pretty much in this vicinity, as you see before you, is the mid 2012 MacBook Pro that I'm live streaming, that I'm talking to you guys from right now. This is the second production machine for my YouTube channel. The machine behind me over there, that's the main one, the one I've had since 2017. Over here is a Logitech ThinkPad. I mean, not Logitech. Lenovo ThinkPad Edge E545. It's a gaming laptop. 16 gigs of RAM SSD. That's running Haiku OS currently, and that's what I was live streaming on earlier when me and Ben were doing our LFS live stream. Right down there, and you guys won't be able to see this, is a Dell Optiplex 960.
Is that
it's a small form factor tower. It was manufactured in 2009. And what I do with that tower specifically is I pretty much just throw anything on there that'll work. For example, I put Linux distros on there, Windows 10, Windows 7. Heck, I've even did Windows XP on it for a little bit, and it worked just great. So that's like a little special niche machine for me. I've had it for a number of years. It works great. It's got an SSD, 8 gigs of RAM in it currently. The other machine that I have, which is right on my shelf up there, is an HP laptop that my sister gave me a long time ago. She didn't want it, so I took that and I transformed it into a Chromebook by putting ChromeOS Flex on it. And ChromeOS Flex is a wonderful operating system for that specific laptop. It works great. Love my Chromebook. Love it. The other machine I have is a Lenovo ThinkPad 11E. It's an old education laptop from a school or an education setting. Currently, I don't remember what OS I have on it currently, but eventually, I'm going to put something else on it. Don't know what yet. And then, as for other technology besides the computers and laptops, got an iPhone here. The iPhone 15 Pro Max.
So that's more of a tablet, not a phone, right?
It's a phone, but it's big enough to be considered a tablet too.
Yeah, so it's a phablet.
The other thing here is a Samsung Galaxy S9. This is my original phone from 2018. I use it as a Wi-Fi phone. And then right over there in a little corner, I got 2 different PlayStation 3s. One is jailbroken, one is not. And then there's a Nintendo Wii over there too. So I do a little bit of retro gaming every now and then, once in a while.
No shame in that game.
And then in my closet, I got an Atari 7800 sitting in there. And I also have a Nintendo GameCube. And so that's pretty much all my technology in a nutshell.
That's cool. So, Adam, I just want to say welcome.
Hey.
And I just want to say, just to kind of circle back on that, what I said previously. So when I met Adam, he's every bit as charming, if not more, in person than he is on a stream.
It's that bad, guys. It really is. When I met Nate, he smells like lumber, and it's awesome.
Did I smell like wood?
Yeah, I'm just messing. I don't know. Everything smelled like old metal in there, so
yeah, it did.
All you could smell was just like hot old metal.
Yeah, it's
all over the place.
Old metal, and also like it kind of reminded me a little bit of like I don't know about your school, but so I living in Michigan. Mm-hmm. There's just like a constant mold in the air always. It seems like, especially old buildings, old concrete buildings.
It dedefinitely had that, right?
Yeah,
like it had that storage building smell.
Yeah, that storage building smell. Yeah, or a government back room building smell. Where where the old Ditto machine lives or used to live or something like that.
Like a principal's office.
Yeah, like a principal's office. Yeah, kind of like it's like kind of exciting but slightly depressing.
Yeah. You're like this can either be real good or real bad. Yeah.
Maybe both at the same time. Yeah.
Right. Anyway. No, it was cool meeting you, and VCF was awesome.
Yeah, I think it was great. I really enjoyed the this is a product of my VCF journey, and no regrets there, not even a letter. So this is kind of because you're here and I want to take advantage of it. So when you were at VCF Midwest, did you find anything like particularly interesting that kind of relating to, because you've obviously been in IT for a long time at some level. So did you find anything there that was interesting, kind of like either a blast from the past or whatever that kind of made you smile?
There were things. So there were a lot of things there that I had no clue what it was. Like, there's just a lot of like things that were before I was even a person.
Yeah.
And those things were like things that maybe 20 people knew about.
Right.
And so there was a lot of that. And I guess like there were things that I thought were cool that I could appreciate now, but nothing that had that kind of feel. There was a lot of stuff that like maybe I had when I was young, or experienced when I was young, or maybe lusted after when I was young, but not necessarily anything that like was like, oh yeah, I remember using this, and blah, blah, blah. Not a whole lot of that, but yeah, there were some, but nothing stands out particularly.
So
I thought the presentation of all the silicon graphics machines was cool though.
I didn't see
those
that.
were always something that like, yeah, they had like 4 different machines over there, and there was something that as a kid growing up, and like the Nintendo 64 was a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I was a teenager at that point, and seeing like the machines that the Nintendo 64 was supposedly, because that was the rumor, right? It's like, oh, Silicon Graphics is making this console, and it's like, oh, it's gonna be like these SGI things,
Mm-hmm.
No, of course not. But yeah, so like seeing those was pretty cool. I don't know. It was really just, I think the thing I took away from it mostly was like you grow up, especially if you grow up as a nerd like that, and it's so often you don't meet people that are also like that.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing just people who are not only fans and enjoy it, but like the type of people that you could just sit there and talk for hours with about socket 7 motherboards, and the virtues of backside cache and things like that. Like, just this really, like, those kind of people was the highlight to me. Like, you go to any booth and anybody was just willing to talk to you about everything forever.
Yeah.
And that was the thing I took away the most.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's the fact that I could, I mean, I could only be there on Sunday, but like if I could have been there Saturday, it would have been probably even more enjoyable. I could have talked to more people because there just wasn't enough time to talk to everybody. But the fact that everybody kind of has kind of their area that they're most excited about, probably. Some people are more like Macintosh, or there's Commodore, there's Amiga, Commodore and Amiga, and so they're passionate about these different little like corners of the tech universe, essentially. And it's really exciting to, like, for me anyway, when I get to talk to somebody and they're just super passionate about some almost like idiosyncratic bit about an old piece of hardware. It's so cool. Now, I don't know if you saw this, but one of the coolest things that I saw there. Now, did you see the movie Sneakers? Did you happen to see that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so it's kind of a hacker movie from the early 90s. And there was a character on there. His name was, oh shoot, can't remember his name. But he was blind, and he had he could basically read a terminal through like a Braille output thing.
Right, yeah.
And so there was actually Braille output devices there. And there was a guy who was actually showing how to use it because he uses it. And like everything from like the 70s to more modern devices he had like on display that you could actually interact with. And I mean, I can't read Braille. My fingers couldn't tell the difference between anything. Like I'm not. It's not. My fingers just aren't trained, and they're kind of callous too. But anyway, so it was so cool to see this other, some of it historical, some of it not, some of it vintage, some of it not. But just this this equipment that I would never use because I would have no use for, but to be able to see it and experience it and interact with it, and to talk to somebody who is who needs these devices, and he could feel around, and he could like tell, like you could just see how he could see with his fingers on connecting and using these machines. It was amazing to see that kind of talent. It was just mind blowing.
It was pretty great.
Oh yeah. And anyway, so I thought that was one of probably I would say one of the highlights. And and like a numpty, I was so like just excited and just enthralled with what was going on. I didn't take a single picture of it because I was
right.
I was just
Nessa took most of my pictures. Yeah,
maybe she took a picture of that.
Because I'm just focused,
Yeah. Like, I didn't even think.
Going back to what I was saying about the people talking is, at least maybe the people in here can relate. I'm pretty sure they can to an extent. That like in regular life and everyday life where you got to interact with normies, you're often like kind of disincentivized to be obsessive about things, right? So like you as like a computer nerd are like, we all obsessive to a certain extent, right? In whatever domain we're in. And so much of our life is about like kind of pulling that back, right? And like, because the normies can't deal.
Right.
And so when I go there, like when I was there, it's like you can be obsessive. Like that's the whole point. And being able to have that feeling is also pretty great. Like knowing that there's people around you that like if you sit there and you want to talk about like VESA local bus for 30 minutes, they're just as happy to talk about VESA local bus for 30 minutes. You like nobody's gonna be like, yeah, okay, this guy's kind of weird. He's just been talking about like a computer card slot thing for 30 minutes.
Yeah, right? or like you were like speaking fondly about your experience with AGP slots and your first AGP graphics card, which was in like an AMD Radeon 120. I don't know what it was at this point, but but yeah, the stuff like that. Yeah, like nobody, like if I talk to somebody about that now, they look at me like I got a lobster growing out of my forehead and just
right. Like, and they're like, so did you see the big game? And you're like, yeah, I'm gonna go over here, thanks.
Yeah.
Now
I will say, thankfully, I do have a guy that I work with, in my day job. He is just as nerdy as I am. Now his interests are slightly different than mine. Like but he's like big into Star Wars and things like that. So that that's crossover there. And then he's more Windows and I'm more Linux. But like I learn from him and he learns from me, and we have a great time interacting. He knows more about like firewall routing than I do, so I kind of lean on him for that. With these WatchGuard firewall things, and so that's a lot of fun. And then working through problems with him, tons of fun. And the guy is like the rest of us. He really should join actually. I'll bug him on Monday. Anyway,
professional and personal.
Yeah, stuff, I understand, but I don't care. Okay. I mean, I send him pictures of like nonsense that I'm working on, and he does too. Like he sends me like he's 3D printing this really awesome TIE fighter thing right now. Like it's like multiple parts, and it's gonna require like work and whatnot. And anyway, so it's kind of cool because
that was awesome.
Yeah, it's cool to be able to interact with people like that, for sure. But
you're asking about like random non-PC, like non-desktop stuff.
Yeah,
I got like 3 handheld PCs.
So you have a Steam Deck, right? Yeah. So you have a Steam Deck. What else you got?
ROG Ally and a Legion Go, a Lenovo Legion Go.
Okay, now I've interacted with the Lenovo Legion Go. Those things are really cool. How would you say that compares to like the Steam Deck? Or what was the other one? You said the Rodrig?
So the ROG Ally, the
ROG
Asus ROG Ally. I just call it ROG because it's like
ROG.
It's easier to say. The ROG Ally is like smaller. But the ROG Ally is more compact, I guess. It's a lot. I think the ROG Ally is like more of what you kind of expect it to be. Then the Legion Go is kind of thick, kind of heavy. It very much leans itself to like the tabletop kind of thing, or that that sort of, because it has like the kickstand built in and everything, right? So it's a bit of a different device. I think the Legion Go is really neat because it has the right. I'm gonna call it Joy-Con. They're not Joy-Cons, but they look like them. So the right Joy-Con thing disconnects, and you can turn it like kind of sideways and use it as a mouse. So like it has a sensor on the bottom, and like you can like use it as a mouse. And so
both?
It comes with like this. It comes with like this little so you use the left one to like move your character with the stick and other things, and then the right handle has like a sensor on the bottom, and you put it in this puck, and it's like a vertical mouse that you use. So you can play like shooters with an actual mouse and stuff. It's pretty neat.
Now, do both sticks come off, or is it just the one?
They do, both of them, yeah. So you set it up with like the kickstand, and then you detach the things, and you use it like a mouse and of course you can pair a keyboard with it if you want to use a keyboard instead. And so if you have like a little travel keyboard, you could just put it in a case with it or backpack or something. Pretty neat. Yeah, the ROG Ally is pretty much like the most, I guess, bog standard of them all. It's basically an Xbox controller layout, and like there's nothing special about it. But it's just easier to get in and go. The interface that Asus kind of built over time has gotten better, but it's pretty good. And of course, it runs Windows, so you have the compatibility there. But overall, I think the Steam Deck is still the better the better experience. Like SteamOS is a much better experience overall compared to what the Windows handhelds do, and compatibility is what it is, and the performance of the other two is better than the Steam Deck for sure. But I just find like the Steam Deck is just easier. I have the first party Steam Deck dock,
Mm-hmm.
the other one that Valve sells.
Yep.
And we have it connected to our TV in the living room. Nessa connects it up all the time, plays indie games and stuff on it on the TV. And then if you want to just unplug it and take it off, it's awesome. I love it. Steam Deck is definitely even though it's the least powerful machine and the least like compatible, because it's not Windows.
Right.
It's much far and away better experience. And if I have the original LCD model, so if I got like an OLED with a way better battery life and all that, it'd be even better. So yeah, for sure, Steam Deck is still the better one.
I have the original
Nintendo approach.
What's that? Oh, the not necessarily the most powerful, but the most fun.
Yeah.
So I also have the original
Oh,
Steam
sorry.
Deck, and also I got one used for my youngest son because he likes he likes games too, and I haven't actually bought him anything like that. He's always been like using like hand-me-downs or second, I guess this could kind of be a hand-me-down since I got it used. But anyway, he loves it, and the one thing I will say about like the Steam Deck, and I know it's anything Steam, right? But the being able to like do the where you can play like with each other across
The
what's
remote
it called?
play anywhere
The
thing?
remote, yeah, the remote play anywhere. So we've like played one of the Lego games, like Lego Star Wars, whatever, remote play. Also played like the Lego Batman together, and that's a lot of fun to be able to just do that. I kind of wish the split screen was a little bit like. It feels like it is a bit of a hack with some of the games, but it's still a really good time.
Yeah,
I really enjoy that. Yeah, I see.
It's
Go
such a great. I like the handheld PCs. They're pretty neat.
Yeah,
You could use it as like a desktop if you wanted to, like
right.
with the dock, like the dock that the dock that Valve sells. Sorry, I don't know why I said Dell. The dock that Valve sells, has both HDMI and DisplayPort on it.
Mhm.
So if you have like an actual like DisplayPort monitor, you can plug that in instead of just relying on HDMI. There's I think three USB ports on there, Ethernet, that all that good stuff. And so like you just take that dock your Steam Deck and monitor, keyboard, mouse, and you got like a Linux box right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've used it as such actually. Because you can have like multiple screens or whatever. You can do the multiple displays, and actually works great. Actually, it works surprisingly great. And Vince brought up something here in the chat. I want to make sure I click on the right one. It says RIP GTA 5 on Steam Deck, and then Eris says everyone should ask for a refund. Send Rockstar a message. I didn't buy it, so I didn't catch what was the reason for that? Is there a
anti-cheat?
Oh, is it anti-cheat?
They added, I think, BattleEye to it. Yeah.
Okay. So it was that's the reason then. That's
yeah, because like once they added the kernel level anti-cheat to it, you couldn't run it on the Steam Deck. And when asked about like would they support the Steam Deck itself, with the anti-cheat, they're like no.
That seems kind of surprising.
Just a blanket no. Yeah.
Because it's Rockstar Games, right? But
Yeah.
still, are they still independent, or are they owned by somebody now?
They're owned by 2K. Take-Two Interactive.
Okay. I don't know.
Yeah. Really big publisher. Bunch of jerks. Typical AAA jerks.
Gotcha. That's
the
too
whole
bad.
shareholder before everyone else thing.
Yeah, that's one of those things that kind of bugs me. But that's why privately
AAA
held
gaming
companies
is eating itself. So
yeah, actually, I find that for me personally, that it's more like these indie games that I find interesting anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like the stories are less cookie cutter, they're a little more compelling. They're maybe a little bit off, I guess. which maybe
New
that's
game that got released that you could check out. It's called The Plucky Squire. It's
I
pretty
mean,
awesome.
The name already has me sold.
Yeah, it's a game about a storybook character that's like in a storybook, but then like this wizard basically pushes him out of his storybook and into like the 3D world that his book exists in. So you go from like being a 2D character in like a book and then being a 3D character in like the real world. It's pretty wild.
It sounds interesting. I know that like Matt, who I co-host with on Linux Out Loud, he always gives these really interesting game suggestions. And there was one that he gave, and I can't remember. I have to look up what it is, but it's a Star Trek game. But it wasn't built by. It was okayed, like they got it approved by those that control the IP, but it was kind of built by fans instead of by some corporation, and so it's not like any of the main characters, but just the story and the interactions very compelling. It feels like you could tell it's not someone who's doing it for a paycheck necessarily. I mean, you're doing things for a paycheck, you got to survive. You got man's got to eat, right? But it was like they were doing it for the purpose of because they love the art. You know what I mean? It's right. I think that's what makes games more fun is when it feels like they're doing it for the not just serving the dollar, but doing it for the joy, like how video games were when I was younger, much younger. So Vince says, reminds me of that scene in Inside Out with Bing Bong. Yeah, I think that's kind of funny.
Yep.
So I could kind of dovetail into that. With the whole CrowdStrike situation, that whole debacle. It actually came as a video to me initially, but there's it looks like that Microsoft, who's it's a publicly traded company, but they're going to be ending the kernel level anti-cheat. So, did you read this at all?
I saw the opposite actually. I saw something that's like, no, they're not going to do that.
I think the premise that they were going to do that is not solid. There's nothing that documents that. People say that, but it's not documented anywhere that they have actually said that's their path forward.
So specifically, from The Verge, Microsoft calls for Windows to change its resilience after the CrowdStrike outage. So essentially, they're exploring it at this point. So it's nothing firm yet, but there's because here's
pinky promise.
It's not a promise necessarily, but I think for the sake of I can put this in the chat here. For the sake of the resilience of Windows, because actually they were going to do this long ago anyway, but they were stopped by the European Union because of something about trade practices. I don't know. It's a monopolistic approach to things. Anyway, so CrowdStrike was blamed for the bug for not testing the software before it was released. We all know about this. It was a botched update, took all these Windows systems down. If they would have had the non-kernel level approach, which they submitted many years ago, then this never would have been an issue, and we wouldn't have all these issues that happened with CrowdStrike. So the idea was if you have it. So anyway, Microsoft has reopened that conversation around restricting kernel level access inside of Windows. And that would trickle then into these anti-cheat softwares, malware as well. And I think that there's so call it hopium, I don't know. But it seems like if this happens, obviously it won't happen right away. It's going to take a while for this all to work out. But then that would be an end to kernel level anti-cheat. So do you think this is just like I'm taking a hopium pill here, or do you think that this is actually could happen?
I think what'll end up happening if there is that much of a lockdown on the kernel level stuff, it will just be allowed for the anointed few. And AAA game publishers, I should say, have enough money and clout, especially through things like Xbox, it'll still be a thing.
Maybe. Yeah, well, I mean, you're probably right, but I like to go through life with rose-colored glasses. I mean, I figure since I live in a delusion anyway, I may as well make it one that I like, right? So, anyway, so this will be something to keep an eye out on, for sure. I'd like to see something like this change, because then, so like let's go down the what ifs, right? If let's say Microsoft said no to any of these anti-cheat, kernel level anti-cheat bits of malware, what would be the approach then for anti-cheat for these companies?
I mean, they would have to just go back to the old ways of doing things, I'd imagine. I don't really understand how they could. Like, kernel level is like, we're talking ring 0 on Windows. Like, there's not much more intrusive than you can get than that, right? So, right. I really don't know. I mean, honestly, a lot of this stuff should just be server side, but there's also a big push for them to get rid of this kernel level anti-cheat stuff and push it to not just server side anti-cheat like they used to, but also like rely on the community. Like, if you see people cheating, vote kick them. That's the issue. They're taking things that used to be a community effort and trying to automate it through this invasive, basically malware.
Mm-hmm.
And they're thinking, oh, if we have every bit of view of the system, we'll certainly get all the cheaters. But no, Warzone has cheaters. Valorant has cheaters. Everywhere still has a bunch of cheaters. And then there's the external cheater stuff where you can't even detect it because it's not running on that machine. Like, there are AI boxes you can get that run AI models based on what's coming out of your video card. And like moving your mouse based on so you connect your mouse and your video to the box. The box analyzes your video and moves your mouse based on what it sees in the video. There's nothing running on your machine at all. Like, it's a completely separate box. So like, how's your kernel level entity gonna stop that? But you know what would? Everybody realizing this guy's cheating and kicking him out.
Right. So I guess here's my question, because maybe I'm just clueless, and I am clueless. But what is the point of cheating? Like what do you gain out of cheating? If you're not actually that good, don't you want to improve your ability to game as opposed to just circumvent the system? I mean, or do I just totally not get it?
I'm with you. I have no idea.
Well, Jinda laughed.
To defeat the whole point of the game, right?
Right. Yeah. Jinda laughed, so I'm sure he's probably thinking something. He's probably one of those.
I'm sorry, guys. I mean, if you're out to play a video game, I thought the idea was to play it and get good at it.
Like the challenge, right? Isn't that the point?
Yeah, isn't that the point? I mean,
otherwise, just watch people play on Twitch.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you want to go play basketball, go ahead. But if you want rocket boosters to make yourself jump higher, isn't that kind of silly?
Yeah, I think so.
I would love for the NBA to have rocket boosters.
Yeah.
Jinda, please show me how to get to that timeline where that happened.
Or if it's like Mech Warrior suits and they're like,
yeah, for sure.
That would be pretty cool. Like,
I want to see my Robotech NBA. Please, please, please.
I don't okay. So one of the games I enjoy playing, even still to this day, is like Super Mario World from the Super Nintendo. Like, I still, every once in a while, I kick it up. Okay, Swift understands. He knows. I can see his excitement. I can feel his excitement. We're probably playing it tomorrow together. I do too.
I had the original SNES when I was a little kid.
Right. It's fun.
And somehow I have two of them. I don't know where the other one came from.
So what happens is sometimes, like, if you don't watch your technology, it gets busy and starts to reproduce.
All my games are the original ones too.
Yeah. I got a bunch. I have I also have one of those like consoles that have like Super Nintendo and NES, like a remake one. That one's in the living room. The original Super Nintendo that I have, which is actually a slim, like the cost reduced one, I have that in the back. But anyway, yeah, it's like the cost reduced model, like the smaller. What was it called?
SNES Junior.
I don't know what it is, but it's like it looks like a Super NES, but like they just kind of scaled it down a little bit, and it was toward the end of the SNES life. And anyway, doesn't matter. Works great. Never had any problems with it. Anyway, so anyway, what was I going to say? I don't know. Lost my train of thought. But anyway, I remember now. So I enjoy like playing like some of those levels they're kind of a challenge. It's kind of the athletic. They kind of like athletic games, in Japan, and where you have to like time all your jumps and you do all this stuff. Like when you hit everything just right, there's that endorphin rush of just you nailed it and it's just awesome. Or even the new Super Mario Wonder on the Switch has a lot of those same kind of like super fun to like hit all the jumps and get all the get the things.
Yeah.
And it's like that's what's fun about it. Like to cheat and have an AI do that for you, what do you get out of that? I don't know. I don't understand.
You can now get AI to play Super Mario for you, where it just runs the whole time, never slows down, and beats the game.
Yeah, but what fun is that?
It does it perfectly.
But what fun is that? It's like, yay, computer.
Tool assisted speedruns have been a thing for a while, but they're more of a curiosity. They're not like TaskBot going through a a crazy like thing that basically is near impossible for a human to do. Is pretty awesome to watch, like the first few times, but understanding that there are humans that also do it and like do really fast, they're way more impressive, right?
Right.
It's the same thing. It's like watching someone who's really good at a certain game is awesome, but watching someone cheat is like, yeah, of course you're winning. Like, I mean, it's just a human quality, right? Endeavor is like important to humans in general, and to just completely skip the endeavor completely skips the point of anything.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's kind of like what's the point?
Right. I mean, going back to the old consoles, right? Add a game genie. It's fun for a little bit. Infinite lives, infinite ammo, whatever kind of crazy cheats you might have. But after a while, that gets old. And it doesn't take that long, depending on the game. But, going through Contra with unlimited lives is one thing. Go through it without even putting in the Konami code. That's another.
Yeah, it's true. And I can't recall like which games they were, but not that I'm admitting I ever played it, but Grand Theft Auto Vice City. I think to me that was the pinnacle of all of them. Most because the Commodore 64 like intro, that was probably what made it for me.
Yeah.
And like the 80s music was just fun and cheeky and everything else. Anyway, you get cheats to like get all the weapons, right? I can't remember I don't remember what it was anyway. At one time I knew how to do it really quickly. But then I realized like if you do that, it takes all the joy out of the game. Like there's nothing fun anymore.
Right.
And it's like, yay, yeah, so you can, just obliterate everything. Good job.
Now what? Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I think the challenge of trying to get through something. Now I can understand like if you're going down a thought experiment, if I have this and I go into this situation, can I hold off whatever, like, the SWAT team or whatever it was, FBI, for so long without regenerating my health and armor or whatever it was. Do you have armor in that? It was just health. I can't remember now.
Yeah. Body armor?
Yeah, I think it was body armor. Yeah. So can you do all those things? Like how long can you hold them up? Anyway, something like that. But like to just do.
I think one difference between like you putting a cheat code and you playing like a single player game and like having like invincibility is these are online games and you're playing against other people.
Yeah.
So there's some sadism there that you like beating other people and making them feel like they're not as good as you, even though you're cheating.
Yeah.
There's some pleasure out of other people's pain, so that comes into play in this scenario.
Okay, I guess I can kind of understand that, but
It reminds me of that actually reminds me of a comic that I saw years ago. It's like a single frame comic, and it was like this little kid standing up to this really big kid, and the little kid's like, "You better not f with me. I'm jacked." And then at the top, the caption was, "Johnny forgot today that he was not on the internet." It's like that, right? Like,
right.
if you ever have to actually perform in one of these games without your cheats, oh, wait a minute. You forgot. You're not cheating.
Right.
Forgot to turn on your cheats.
Yeah.
But then you have games like Tarkov where there's so many cheaters that the only way to be successful is to cheat. In that cheating actually levels the playing field? If that makes sense.
I suppose, but then it goes back to like, what's the point though?
I mean, I guess they sort of cancel out the cheats if everyone's cheating.
I suppose, yeah. Yeah, I'm just thinking about like little Johnny who whips out an NES controller and goes, up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, select start or whatever.
He is a child whose parents don't give him enough time to get through Contra, and he's just got to do what he's got to do. He doesn't have time to get good. He's got piano practice. He's got baseball. He's got school. He's got all that stuff going on, and he's like, you know what? I need the Konami code so that I can actually beat this thing, because mom and dad won't let me get good.
I suppose, and also like you couldn't save your progress too.
Yeah, and then you had to hope that your NES didn't overheat by the time you got back from school. And then you come back in, you walk into your room, and all you hear is the bang, and your heart just sinks, right?
This sounds like a personal experience.
Oh, for sure.
Power surge.
Just don't leave it on the carpet. That's the thing. Just make sure it's well ventilated when you leave it for school. Maybe if you got like a pedestal fan in your room or something, put that on it. Just yeah, for sure.
So I see here in the chat, Francois says, Windows or Linux, nobody gets in my kernel without my permission, especially for such a futile thing as games. That's kind of how I feel too. Like I don't know that. I don't know. I mean, I even get a little uncertain about like NVIDIA drivers. That's how nuts I am, I guess. And Anna Rita says, I love the 1980s NES game music. Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. I think there's something really great about those.
Look up the soundtrack for Super Spike V-Ball on the NES. It's amazing. You wouldn't think a volleyball game would have such a great soundtrack, but it's amazing.
Do you ever play it with 4 players? Do you have a
with the 4 score?
Yeah, do you have like the wireless satellite thing where you plugged in the ports and it would fire it off to the yeah. That was tons of fun.
That and Nintendo World Cup, because we had the combo cart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nintendo World Cup is amazing because you can tackle. There's like no penalties. You can just tackle the crap out of the other players, and eventually they just don't get up. Like at some point they're just laying there, and like the AI will actually like pass it to people who are just laying on the ground, and it'll just bounce like past them.
Huh.
It's hilarious. You just got to keep going at it, and they'll eventually just not get up.
I never played. I don't think I've played that. So Steve's very own says, can't win, then cheat. So now we know his philosophy in gaming.
No, I've seen Steve play. Trust me, he's not cheating.
No, he's not.
He is not using cheats. It is very obvious Steve is not using cheats.
Yeah. All right, so I do have to say, it's a little plug for Steve. When he goes live and he does gaming, it's for the same reason you want to watch somebody who's really good at gaming. It's fun to watch Steve be really bad at gaming. So I highly recommend you just watch. It's
like the Jersey Shore of gaming. Like,
it's so interesting.
You shouldn't watch it, but here you are.
It's interesting how he comes from a different point of view, because he doesn't have like a lot of concepts that are in other games, because he's not really a gamer.
Right.
So he approaches things very differently sometimes, and I think that's very interesting.
It is fun to see non-gamers play games, because like they don't have the same like literacy, right? The game literacy that most of us would.
Sure.
No.
And so it's interesting to like see how like games are designed for people who don't play games. And like if you look at the newer games, they're almost always designed with the assumption that you played games But when he's playing like these older games that don't have that assumption, it's fun.
Yeah, it is lots of fun. And I think next time he goes live, he's got to really promote it before he goes live ahead of time, because it is so much fun.
It's funny but fun at the same time. Huh?
Yeah, it's like, it's like when you like watch, like self-deprecating comedians, do their thing. It's kind of like that, but Steve's very endearing at the same time. So it's like you're kind of like rooting for him, but like also not, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's like a double-sided coin.
Yeah. So
yeah,
anyway.
like Vince said in chat, the main thing to take away from this is Steve play more games.
Yep.
Steve just play more games. Stream
if you
more
want to
games.
talk about really good music for the NES, you cannot talk about Ninja Gaiden. It's like the best music.
Is
Ninja Gaiden's pretty awesome.
Is that the link that you put in the?
No, that's actually Super Spike Bebo.
Oh, okay.
I'll put the Ninja Gaiden too.
Mega Man games always have good music too.
The Mega Man has a great soundtrack. I'm not Mega Man. Is it Mega Man? Mega Man 2?
Yeah. Mega Man's a thing. Yeah, Mega Man 2 is probably the best soundtrack.
Mega Man 2. I just had a brain fart there. I love Mega Man. Mega Man 2 is the only Mega Man that I've actually ever beat. 1 is murder.
Right.
But
the first actual video game I grew up with, Nate, was Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1. That was some fun. And then I slowly got into Roller Coaster Tycoon because I've been riding roller coasters since I was 5 years old. So I was kind of a wild child.
I know the Tony Hawk games are really big. I think like Dreamcast era. I think was it Dreamcast?
PS1, yeah.
N64, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, PS1 and N64.
Although
the N64 version really sucks.
What, Adam?
The N64 version is pretty terrible compared to the PlayStation.
Yeah, compared to the PlayStation one. In my mind, the PlayStation one was a lot better.
I only remember it on the Dreamcast, but maybe
it did come out on Dreamcast as well. Yeah.
So
if you played the Dreamcast one first, don't go back and play the PlayStation one. You'll be just disappointed.
No. The
you'll just be disappointed.
Version was kind of, it was not. It was not one that I played. I personally go up with the PlayStation X, and that's just where it went. And I was one of the sad few who never got to own a PS2.
I had an Xbox.
Yeah. That was what I got into,
Tony Hawk is probably in his 50s now, I'd imagine, somewhere.
If I had to guess. Dude. He's an old fart, yeah. I mean, the man has gotten so
he's old.
He's like a legacy skateboarder now. He still does it from time to time, but he's moved on.
But
and go ahead.
I guess he's still. I mean, obviously, he's probably not in his prime for skateboarding anymore. But I understand he's still. I mean, he would still do better than me.
Oh yeah, he can't even hit the dang 900 anymore.
Yeah,
man, what a failure!
Tony Hawk is 56.
50.
I mean, if you can't do a 900, then why bother skateboarding?
I mean, the man he's I don't know.
I'm being facetious. The 900 is ridiculously difficult, and
that
shouldn't be the bar of whether or not you can skateboard.
Yeah. I would just like to be able to stay upright on a skateboard and not fall in my derriere.
But yeah,
I skated a lot as a teenager, but it's been a very long time.
Yeah. I tried as a teenager. I tried all the time with never any success.
Once you just accept the fact that you're gonna get hurt, you can actually enjoy it.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the part that I think most people try to avoid. Like they try to skateboard and like they just haven't accepted that they're just gonna get hurt, and they don't really get to enjoy it because they're too cautious.
No, I had an interest in it at one point, but then it just sort of faded.
So my daughter has a newfound interest in skateboarding.
Ooh.
So I am 100% supporting it. I just ordered some knee pads today, in fact.
Good idea.
So I don't want her to. I should have gotten her a helmet. I didn't think about that. I have to get her a helmet now. I don't want to bust her noggin or knees and elbows.
Helmet's the most important one. The others, yeah.
Yeah, but if you leave like, what covers your elbow behind, that's kind of a bad thing, I would say.
But it's gonna happen. That's what I'm saying.
But if you have the elbow pads though, then you're not gonna won't be quite as catastrophic. I tried using it on.
Last thing you want as her father is to have her get bruised on a skateboard.
Bruise is okay. I don't want her to like
get heckin'
leave
hurt.
Genetic material behind. Yeah,
right, like
totally
major amounts behind. So, because it's your knees and elbows that are going to take the major hits. So.
Yeah, you don't want her elbows or her knees to get screwed up. No.
Yeah, I don't have any like lasting injuries that
tailbone too.
That she's like, why didn't my dad get me some elbow pads or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
I had a drill sergeant in the army who called them Nebo pads, elbow and Nebo pads.
I like it.
Could be worse.
They probably said it with very.
Come on, man! Don't forget your elbow and Nebo pads. And it's just like, no one's gonna call him out on it. Like, what are you gonna do?
Well, no,
I always smirked every time I heard it. I just couldn't help it.
You're gonna have like that one. Sometimes you have like the one guy that's who's obviously socially impaired, who can't help himself but to say something. Those are always my favorite interactions with drill sergeant.
Yeah, because then you get to see the aftermath and.
Right. It's like it's not me.
Yeah, that's the part. That's not me. I'm glad someone said it, but I'm glad it wasn't me.
Oh, heavens no.
Yup.
Eesh.
I was looking at some Tony Hawk stuff. Anyway,
that was some interesting video game chat for a few minutes.
One of the fun things about Tony Hawk, funny enough, is like people who don't know who he is, like who he physically is, they don't recognize him. Like usually at an airport or something, we'll see his ID and they're like, Tony Hawk? Oh, you got the same name as that skateboarding guy. But it's like, it's him. They don't know it's him.
They just don't know
who it is. And he just plays it off. He's just like, yeah, it's just a crazy coincidence, I get it all the time.
I mean, really, that's actually probably the best place to be.
Right. Famous enough that people know your name, but not your face. Yeah.
Yeah, because then if you're famous enough that you can reap the benefits, but you're not so famous that you can't live a normal life.
Right.
That's the sweet spot right there.
It's like he's a regular guy, but a famous skateboarder in the same time.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And then
exactly.
It could be said for the same with Aerosmith. You look at Steven Tyler. He's like just this typical knockoff guy, but at the same time, he's this crazy popular rock and roller.
I could pick him out, but I also grew up in the 90s, so.
But if you looked at him today, you'd barely even recognize the dude.
Nah, I don't want to miss a thing. I'm gonna notice him.
What, Adam?
Steven Tyler always looks different, though. He doesn't look like a regular person. He always has like some
exactly
with his hair or something.
At him, they don't look at him like he's a regular guy at all. No. And, but yeah, we've veered off topic like massively now.
It's open mic. There's no topic.
Yeah, it's open mic night.
It's just random. Yeah.
So I could talk about the stuff that I got at VCF.
VCF?
And shortly after VCF.
Yeah, actually, what did you get at VCF?
So at VCF, I purchased a compact Rosario CDS 833. It is a 486 SX 33 megahertz machine, 32 mega RAM, a 250 megabyte hard drive, but I have since replaced that with a IDE to SD card adapter because that hard drive making some noise, boy. And
that's no surprise.
Came with a floppy drive, CD drive, 5 1/4 as well.
Ooh.
I haven't really gotten the 5 1/4 one to work yet. I think it needs some love inside of the drive itself. Probably new belt, the various things. It's just there's a lot of work on that one. So I might just end up trying to find one that's just in better condition to replace it.
So yeah, I've watched many YouTubers like work with their 5 1/4, and a lot of them they'll clean the rails for the
Right. Nope. He did.
Sorry about that.
Sorry.
They'll clean the rails, like re-grease them, and then also clean the heads. Like Adrian's Digital Basement. I don't know if you ever watched that guy.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
He was at
I
VCF,
have to get my hands on some of that electronics grease stuff, the lubricant.
Yeah, that's
I have to get
white
some of
lithium.
that. Yeah, that. Yeah.
Yep.
It does have a Sound Blaster 16. Did come with that. That's kind of nice.
That's really awesome.
Has like the SCSI interface for a SCSI drive to attach to it, but I don't have a SCSI drive, so all the other stuff's IDE.
So you
might pretty nice.
Check out the Blue SCSI project. That might be of benefit to you.
I will. Yeah, I've heard of Blue SCSI, but I've never actually used it.
That's what I got in this thing
So
here.
the SCSI interface is on the Sound Blaster, I believe. The motherboard itself has IDE. But yeah, so that's a pretty nice little box. I got DOS. I installed DOS 622 on it. Actually, originally IBM PC DOS 5 because I have floppies from when I was a kid. Like our very first family computer, I have the restore discs from it, so I was able to like restore that onto this old machine. That was pretty fun. But I eventually upgraded that to 622 and Windows 3.1, and I installed 95 on it, but I think I'm gonna go back to 3.1. Not that 95 runs too bad, but a lot of the 95 specific software, it's a bit out of reach for this machine. So DOS is where it's happiest. And I've run many games on it. There are some DOS games that are again a bit too much. Duke Nukem 3D, totally out of the question.
Okay.
That really demands a Pentium. Doom runs all right though. You can run Doom pretty playable on it. I think a 486-66 would have been probably I think I'm running a bit under the bare minimum for what Doom really wants. But you can lower the screen size a bit, shrink it up a little bit, and it runs all right. Incredible Machine, playing that on it was fun. Obviously runs Wolfenstein pretty good. SimCity 2000. SimCity 2000 runs pretty good until the city gets real big and then like starts to chug.
I like kind of when SimCity 2000 gets like too busy, how like the refresh is kind of like that does the accordion thing
in parts.
Yeah.
The screen like kind of updates in parts. Yeah. Jazz Jackrabbit runs really nice on it. Jazz Jackrabbit's a bit of a technical marvel in my book, though, so it should run good on a lot of things. I'm really happy with it. It's fun to tinker with something, from that vintage. I enjoy it quite a bit. And then, so I picked that up, and I also picked up a PowerBook G4 15-inch.
Okay. What year is that?
2003. It's 1.25 gigahertz G4 with 1 gig of RAM, and I think it's a 60 gig hard disk in it, and a Mobility Radeon 9600.
Okay.
But it needs a new battery. Duh. That makes sense. It actually also needs a replaced PRAM battery, which is much more difficult than getting the laptop battery. And it needs a new super drive as well, the like DVD burner thing in there. It needs a new one of those. Those are pretty easy to source. But the new battery and the PRAM battery is a different story.
That's not
but
really
it runs
vintage,
really well.
though, is it?
I mean, like the keyboard on it's great. I love that keyboard. What was your question?
Is that really vintage though? I mean, it is from this millennia. I would think it's still considered modern, right? Is that how it works?
It's nearly 20 years old. It's over 20 years old, actually. Yeah. So, well, okay. If you're wondering if it's vintage, it's 21 years old, right?
Yep.
If you think about when the PlayStation 2 came out in 2000, the NES itself was only 15 years old.
So I don't like what you're doing here.
So the NES to the PS2, there's no doubt in your mind that those are not of the same vintage, right?
Right.
and yet this is a longer period of time than that.
I know. See, but what you're doing here, I don't really appreciate, because it makes me think about how old I am.
Yeah, I know. I know. I just this is the consequence of trying to gatekeep what's retro and what's not. Is you have to come to terms with your mortality for at least 30 seconds.
So, in my mind, the 90s was only like 5 to 8 years ago. So I'm just going to go ahead and stick with that for now.
That's fine. That's totally fine. But yeah, so 2003, pretty nice machine. The screen is still amazing. Backlit keyboard in 2003 was awesome. Just, it's such a cool machine.
Wait, that had a backlit keyboard in 2003?
It does. In fact, it has an ambient light sensor to know when to turn on the backlight keyboard.
See, that's modern. That's like basically brand new.
Right. Except when you look at the trackpad and you're like, yeah, this is about right.
It's tiny.
Yeah. It's about the size of a Game Boy screen. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's the one thing I really like about newer computers is the large trackpad, and using gestures and whatnot. Though that's really nice, I think.
Like when I put if I put my modern M3 Max MacBook like next to it, it immediately looks old. But if you just don't do that, it actually does feel kind of modern. Yeah. I'm running Tiger on that right now so that it can run Leopard, but I'm running Tiger on it so that I can still take advantage of classic apps. So I can run the classic mode stuff in there. It doesn't boot on OS 9, but it has the OS 9 like environment.
What classic machine is this running on, Adam?
PowerBook G4 15-inch.
Wow, that's some legacy stuff, dude.
It's awesome. And then from a local shop, I ended up picking up an awesome laptop from 2004, I think. 2004, 2005, one of those. And that was it has a desktop Pentium 4 in it. Like it's a chonk. This thing is it's a thick boy, right? And it has a desktop Pentium 4 in it with 2 gig of RAM and a Radeon X600 like graphics card. And I think I'll say it's like an 80 gig hard drive that's in there right now. But boy, it's a beast and it's awesome. It's if you want to play like XP era stuff, it's got you, man.
I kind of feel like XP is a really good
version.
Yeah, like looking back now, like if I use them now, I feel like XP is really pretty good at playing the old DOS era games.
To an extent, yeah.
Yeah, it's not perfect.
But Nate, I actually have a very old Star Wars game called Knights of the Old Republic that I started with on the original Xbox. Excuse me. But then I moved to play it on a computer on a really old as heck ThinkPad I used to have. And because the integrated graphics on it were so god awful, I couldn't run it for the longest time. And then I'm trying to run it on this modern laptop I got now, and it's just horrendous. I can't do it because it does have Linux support, but the problem with it is that running it on a modern version of Windows or even Linux is a night. Because sadly, the game just did not age well at all. So, it's one of those that, but the funny thing is the KOTOR 2 did get, modern OS support, but the first one, no. And I mean, you gotta bend over backwards just to even get 1080p support in the original version. It's like, oh. So, it's one of those things that, certain games are just a pain in the backside to do anything with them, so to speak.
For context, the laptop is 1.8 inches thick. It's a pretty
now
thick
that
boy.
would be a good computer to run old stuff on. Yeah.
How big?
I think 1.8 or something like that. It's really big.
Yeah,
that's without the lid. Then the lid is like another if I had to guess, probably about ½ inch, maybe close to a ½ inch. So like when you have it closed, it just looks like a textbook.
That's good stuff right there.
And I think it's The machine itself is, I think, 9 pounds, and Power Brick adds another 3 to that. So it's awesome. And it has like 3 fans, and they need it for this desktop Pentium 4 that's in there. It's 3.2 gigahertz Pentium 4. And I love that just excess. It's like a 70s muscle car. It's like, you didn't have to do this, but here we are. You're doing it.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's something, I mean, going from the thicker to the thinner laptops, like throughout the 2000s and 20 teens was welcoming because, it was lighter, easier to travel. And even now, the amount of power you get for something very thin. But now when I look back at those, like my first laptop, there's something like charming about just how thick it is,
Right. Especially if you look at like older, like 486 or early Pentium laptops, and they're just like, they're not like powerhouses really, but they're just massive.
All right, I have to highlight something here. So Eris said in chat, says retro is going to get another explosion in popularity. And I'm like, oh, like when the 90s gets old? And then he says, when the 80s being the cool decade ends in popular culture. That'll never happen. The 80s will always be cool. You can never, it'll never be not cool.
It'll never
pretty
be unpopular. You're right, Nate. It's kind of like, as AC/DC says, rock and roll will never die.
Well, the 80s themselves were not a great, not necessarily a great time, but the ideal of the 80s, like what we want the 80s to be, will always be cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I live life through rose-colored glasses, so I know what you're saying. I guess, yeah, the 80s kind of, it was the...
I think you're living life through a rose-colored telescope at this point.
Yeah, pretty much. So the... well, yeah, because he had like the big recession at the end of the 70s, and it was like kind of digging your way out of that. That was pretty rough.
Yeah, and there were a lot of groups of people in the 80s who were not doing so great. So, but we're not going to make this about history.
Yeah, we'll see how. I mean, gotta be careful how we tread on that one. But anyway,
we should really do history saloons one day.
I'd be down for that.
Now that would be fun.
Like how I learned that in the Cold War, the whole thing about like spies from the CIA and the KGB, that was like super one-sided, and that the KGB had spies everywhere and the CIA just couldn't get anything done. That was fun to learn.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. Like just how funny it was. I mean, only because it's, a distant past, right? Like it's not like it affected anything like modern or anything. Oh wait, it did. It's okay.
Yeah. Probably. And to say that the effects aren't maybe still present might be.
Well, they very much are.
Anyway, because I don't want any of those agencies knocking on my door, be them foreign or domestic. So with that said, I want to talk about, so thank you very much. What a great open mic night. I think we meandered all over the place, and that's what makes open mic nights fun. It's very little preparation on my part, which is the best, is the most ideal, but also interesting things, and probably maybe most importantly, what Dale provided me might be the biggest gain for me personally. So thank you, Dale. So next week is a distro exploration, and I know we often do Linux distributions and whatnot, and we did one BSD recently with Ghost BSD, I think.
We did Ghost BSD, yeah.
Yeah, but I was wondering, and this is kind of because of Vintage Computer Fest, and also like some other. There's this guy who I met him face to face at VCF. Action Retro. Have you seen that channel? That's a great channel. I like the guy. He stuffs Linux on things that doesn't belong, and specifically like Ubuntu, like the modern Ubuntu, on something that is ridiculous.
That isn't supposed to run.
I wanted to meet him, and I just couldn't find him.
I ran into
booth,
him,
but he was just never there.
Oh, okay. I ran into him and had a very short conversation. I think I think maybe my excitement made him uncomfortable. So if he sees this, he probably won't, but I apologize. Anyway, I love his channel. It's great. So that he did. But one of the things that he talked about that I thought was interesting was, and I've heard other people talk about it too, but has anybody here ever played with Haiku OS?
No.
Ricky has, Swift has.
I'm not very good with poetry.
Been a while.
You know what?
But I have.
That's a great point. So next week. So anyway, does anybody have any objections to trying Haiku OS? It's not Linux. It's Unix-y. So it's sort of, it's sort of very nice.
No objection.
No objection. Okay. Well,
I
cool.
have an objection.
What's your objection?
Well, I know you're kind of hyped up on the whole Haiku OS, Nate, but I know this is kind of pre-community Freeport, but hear me out. My team and I have been highly deving with StormOS recently, and we kind of wanted to plug that for this current one and then come back to Haiku. And we've done like some severe amount of work on it, and we were kind of hoping to have that as our next distro explorer versus Haiku, no offense.
Well,
I think we should just be ourselves.
Like the OS?
I like that. That was clever.
Haiku is inspired by BOS.
Mm-hmm.
FYI.
Yeah.
I think it's
But
isn't it actually built from some of the same code?
It's inspired. I don't think.
Yeah, it's just inspired by.
Yeah.
So Ben, we could do that and do Haiku later, but my concern is how long have the ISOs been out?
Ours is, well, we've severely tested it, and I'm going to plug on this one.
Basically, me and the team have been working on the ISO. As of yesterday evening, on my machine that I'm talking to you guys right now, in a virtual machine that I've been playing around with, there is the latest version of StormOS sitting there. I just gotta pretty much get it out of the virtual machine. I'll hand it to Ben, and then he can upload it for you guys to test.
Well, actually, it's already being uploaded as we speak from my end.
Oh, it is?
Right. And we've
okay.
Like we said, it's ready to go. There's no bugs in it, no nothing. It's all set.
We've been testing this one. It's good to go. I've been testing it extensively. I haven't seen any issues with it on my end. The biggest caveat, though, and this is there's going to be some slight disappointment, but hear us out here.
Yeah.
We tried very hard to implement KD6, but unfortunately, we couldn't do it. So
XFC for the time being.
So we're sticking with XFC for the time being until we can figure out an alternative route in order to get KDE Plasma implemented. So it's XFC at least for now.
Right. And the reason we're trying to plug it, Nate, is because of the heavy amounts of work and changes we did. And I know you guys had sort of a concern review with it last time, but all those wacky concerns have been sorted. I want to say it's a slew better release than last year's messy look at it, so to speak.
One big change that we have implemented is not to the distro itself, but to how we build StormOS going forward into the future. We literally designed a StormOS ISO builder built from scratch. Our buddy Red, aka Seeker here, he fully developed the thing, and this ISO builder essentially builds the StormOS ISO very quickly. So Red, do you want to talk about this, please?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, basically it's an ISO builder. Basically it grabs the build file from the GitHub and it downloads the available packages that it needs from the Arch repositories.
Yeah.
And it actually makes sure that you have it installed and everything else, and it gets to work and it starts building the ISO. And if there are any issues, they're usually in the back end where then Ben comes along, fixes it, re-uploads it, gives it a little bit of time into the repo. Then I wipe out the drive, not the drives, I wipe out the file folders that I need to, or it does it automatically, and then it rebuilds it. And about 7 to 9 minutes later, the ISO is built.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also talk about the package build handler thing.
You know, yeah, I was discussing this earlier. Basically, you know, like everyone has their own repositories. So basically, it's their own version of an earlier or a later model of the program. Basically, we just grab the tarball, we convert it to a ZST, and we can grab on. I've tested it personally with 5 different tarballs, and it does all of them sequentially one after another. And then they're done. That's it.
Mm-hmm. And each one of these tarballs came from the AUR, by the way.
Yeah, the AUR tarballs. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, like I said, Nate, there is a lot of great changes in this, and that is again kind of why we were plugging for this one, because you know it's in our eyes it would be a lot more exciting, I think, to talk about than whatever Haiku or anything like that. At least our view.
Now, I will say, if any of you do get a chance to test our ISO, if there is indeed anything that we may have missed, any errors or anything, please, by all means, you can reach out to any one of us, and we will basically take your concerns very seriously, and we will address those concerns in future ISOs.
Of course. Yeah. So yeah, this is kind of our plug to sort of get it on the Saloon, because we haven't talked about it in a long time. We just figured this would be a good opportunity to sort of throw it out there.
So, okay, so I'm thinking here. There is no rigid structure to what we do from one week to another. I just kind of have a guideline. I kind of rotate through 4 different ones. So, because it's still like a fairly new ISO, my concern is like, so last time we tested it, it was a little rough for people, and I don't want to have a distro exploration where it's rough, because I don't want you guys to have bad feedback. Essentially, is what it boils down to.
We all tested it severely throughout the week, and especially at night, and we can attest that it works. We've tested it across myriads of hours, and we can assure that, you know, it's not going to have any hiccups, whatever, right, Ricky?
Yeah, I tested it in VM. I have not had a chance to test it on bare metal as of yet, but I will be testing it on bare metal on a spare machine I have, just to see how that performs. But from the VM test that I did yesterday, went fine. Works well in VirtualBox.
Yes. And
the only thing you'll need to do is...
Go ahead.
I think he got angry and froze up.
Yeah. Well, like we said, Nate, that concern should be squashed, because like Ricky said, and I did, we've all tested it to the greatest extent that we can, and we can all fully assure you that that all the bugs you guys encountered should be gone, as far as we're concerned.
Well, I mean, we can do it, I suppose. Ricky left.
I
would have disconnected him.
Out, but yeah, we thank you for this opportunity, and we promise that we will not let this chance slip, so to speak.
I got you. All right, so last time we did it was 2022. Last time we did StormOS.
Yeah, well, in those 2 years, it should fully be okay now. So
yeah, okay.
And we
so
give you 100% guarantee that this chance won't be.
where are the ISOs stored? Like, how do you have them? How are they accessible?
Right now, Google Drive and SourceForge, and another plug we want to talk about is in this community Freeport is we've changed the Plymouth theme from the Arch logo to a wolf, courtesy of our good buddy Arch Penguin. So when you guys see it, that's on him. That's our new StormOS menu icon, face icon, and Plymouth. So yeah, because we were using a fork of the Arch logo originally, and we got kind of bored of that, and we changed it. Kudos to him. And we were using originally for this release a very bright Vita wallpaper, and he and I agreed that it was just kind of bland look, or not bland, but kind of bright looking. So he forked it and put it to a darker shade. Because I got to tell you, oh, that reminds me, I was going to do a screen share for a second. But first, there's something the guys and I have to talk about, and that is, before I get to the demo real quick.
Well, actually, hang on, hold that thought.
Hang on, let me talk.
Yes, let's hold that thought for just a little bit. So, okay, so we'll do is, although
Ricky's back.
We'll do StormOS, and
yes.
So I know because I got Vince has another suggestion too. Catchy OS.
Catchy.
Cash. Oh,
So,
yeah,
but,
Cashy.
There's one thing I should tell you about that, Nate. I'm running it right now, and I'm going to be switching back to StormOS, but more on that later. But I have tested COS on my system.
Let me ask here. So,
what?
Does anybody, are any of you like eating your own dog food right now?
No. No, we're not on dog food. Heck no. Why?
No, are you eating your own dog food? What I mean by that is, so like for me, my favorite distribution is OpenSUSE Tumbleweed.
Okay.
And I eat my dog food. I run it here, I run it there, I run it everywhere.
Oh,
so
I get it.
I kind of would maybe like to wait until you're eating your own dog food. Does that make any sense?
Like if the team is all running the distro
Like,
and
if you
also
guys are-
building the distro with the distro.
Right. So
Okay.
so like when you're actually using it, it's running well for you. It's doing all these things. It'd probably be best then to start using it, because then you know that it's gone through a different series of extensive testing.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, here's my concern. It's, when we did StormOS last time, it kind of sort of fell on its face a little bit, and I don't want to have a show about saying all these things that are wrong with it, because that doesn't feel good for me as the
main guy,
as the show host. I don't feel good about a show where we're spending the entire time saying everything that went not right. So I'd like to, just for the sake of the project and making sure that it's, that we're giving it a fair shake, because again, when you have like a lot of stuff on the web saying it doesn't work for this reason, I don't like that. I don't want to have that to be
the cheering factor.
Yeah, because then
exactly.
What if somebody then watches like the Linux Saloon after the fact? One of the 4 or 5 people,
and they want to look like, what the heck did they just say?
Right. Well, yeah. They say I don't want them to be like, well, it's not ready yet. I want to have a show where people feel like, oh, this is great.
Comfortable with it.
Yeah, where people are, because like, if you're using it and Ricky, you're using it, it's working great. You already have that personal experience.
Like a week this and say, oh crap, what happened to this?
Exactly.
Right. So like, because then I know that it's stable.
Yeah.
It's stable. You guys are using it. It's working well for you. And then even if like they're like errata, like the error, like, so even with OpenSUSE or with Arch, or back when I used Mandriva,
whatever,
at every release they would have like, these are the known issues that we have not addressed. So if you see these are the fixes for it. So you have a good baseline of, these are some things that, some issues to watch out for. and so people who are testing it are not testing it with a bunch of unknowns, so that you have things that are already worked out. And
unknown read.
Right, and that'd probably be best. So let's go ahead. I'm going to kind of spin around again on this. Let's go ahead and do Haiku this time, and then when you guys like maybe next time, next week, if you guys are you're eating your own dog food, we don't have to wait a whole month. We'll do Haiku. Yeah. We'll do a news flight night, and then we'll do instead of doing an application appetizer, we can do StormOS. Oh. So I just want to make sure it's got at least a couple weeks.
Okay.
I got you. I know what you mean.
Yeah,
I see.
A couple weeks of eating your own dog food, and as it were. I'm gonna stop saying that because now I want to.
We'll do StormOS in a few weeks. Cool.
Yeah. So this way I know that you're using it. You've zoomed on it. You've done.
We'll do reports as we go through it. That's fine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's go back. Go ahead. And we'll do Haiku, and then we'll go over this time because you said you have some stuff we got. We'll have to kind of cut a little bit shorter, but you kind of had a 2-part community free pour. So anyway, some quick housekeeping. If you have any suggestions, distribution, I got this Haiku OS, which I've never heard of until just now. Put that on the list. Any applications, suggestions, poll ideas, whatever you have. Vince, you're probably you're an absolute treasure trove of ideas, so thank you for that. But you can send them to, here, Telegram, Discord, email, whatever. Suggestions at linuxsaloon.com. By the way, my linuxsaloon.com has been a little bit lonely, so if you want to send me a message, that'd be pretty cool, just because I want to make sure that's still working. I like email, although I'm behind on my emails. But if you want to send something, I'd like that. Yeah, anyway. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to quick fruit pour. So we'll have to do we are almost at time, but Ben, if you'd like to go ahead and share your screen like we talked about earlier, go ahead and do that right now. It'll have to be a quick demonstration, but I'm more than happy to, make this a part of the fun.
I just shut down the VM, doggone it.
Oh, why'd you do that?
Annie.
All right.
Okay. I'll give it a quick plug, but I don't want to take up too much of y'all's time. So, I'll do a quick scan of the desktop, etc. But I'm not going to try and go into too much depth because I know we got to close out. So, man.
Mm-hmm.
Then this thing.
Yeah, I shut my VM down a moment ago after I rebuilt it.
I'll boot it back up for you real quick. Share, and I'm gonna do. Where the heck is it? All right, here's the StormOS VM. Jeepers. Afraid of. Now, don't judge this thing by the speed, guys. This is just a VM. It's not representative of the actual OS. Whatever. So, okay. Here it comes. All right, let's log in. Now, this is this light DM bug. This is representative of VM. Again, don't judge this thing by its cover, please. So, okay, here we are in StormOS, the latest version. And excuse the messy desktop. That's just my build stuff.
That's how you play.
So, yeah, that's how I play it. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as you see, I've downloaded a lot of Fred's tools here, so bear that in mind. But here we have the download script. This thing makes you... Yeah, Red, why don't you go ahead and kind of just give a quick...
It's a regular download manager. Let's say if you want to download an ISO from SourceForge.
Right. Yeah, you just paste the link in there. You tell it how many... It
auto grabs from the clipboard.
Right. And you paste there, and then you tell it how many cores you want to use, and then it multi-processor downloads it like that,
It uses Axel. It's a front end for Axel.
It uses Axel 8 so that it downloads it very quickly due to that. And then this is a big one. We're getting to the meat and potatoes of this distro. So here we have the okay, so here comes our kernel manager. Now this is a labor of love, so to speak, but we're getting to the meat and potatoes shortly. This is one of our newest additions. This is the Arch kernel manager, but we forked it for StormOS. So basically, this is this is one we've been striving for a while. This is the Arch Kernel Manager, just ported to StormOS. You can pick your Linux, your LTS, all kinds of stuff in here.
Made by Arco Linux.
Yeah, we just grabbed it from them. Now, the reason this section is not working is because we haven't found a way to get third-party repos in there, but pay that no mind. Then we have the Python manager, and this helps us install the dependencies automatically for our custom programs that Red has written. So we would dive more into that, but again, trying to save time. And then we have our mirrors fixer, which is basically a front end to reflector for mirror usage. I would go ahead and demonstrate this, but that's just going to take up way too much time than we have.
And select action, action and then exit on the bottom. No, Ben.
Right click.
No, no.
Ben, go to action, press on that, and go to exit.
Yeah, my bad. Okay, but yeah, then we have our famous screen recorder, which, we're not oh
I'm trying
God.
to tell you, Ben.
Exit. Okay. Yeah, now let's go to the StormOS utilities menu. So this thing is the meat and potatoes of the distro, and yes, we still have the famous screen recorder in there. No need to get into that, but this thing is the meat and potatoes of our distro. This is where it all started with the
This was the very first application we ever worked on.
The first custom app that we ever had. Now this is what got StormOS off the ground. This is where where it sort of came into its own, so to speak. This is sort of like our post-install tool, so to speak. This thing, whoo, yeah, it's got so much in it that it would take almost a whole daggone show to get through it. But yeah, just pause the video, look through what you want here, because I'm not going to cover it. It would take way too daggone long. But yeah, you got your gaming scripts, this thing is a whole show in of itself, isn't it, Red?
Yep. Very much.
Yeah, we're not going to delve into what's in here. If you guys want to do it, just either download the system or look at the video. That's my best advice, because yeah. But anyway, yeah, there's our famous wallpaper that Arch Penguin helped us with. Yeah.
So there's a question in the chat. It says, "What is Storm based on?"
Arch.
Arch based.
Yes, and
Excellent.
I'm gonna go ahead and shut this down now. But
and also, if I may say one thing, me, Red, and Ben were talking earlier this morning. We have decided that we are opening up our team for hiring. So if anybody wants to join the StormOS team and help us make our distro better, feel free to let us know, and we'll bring you on board.
Well, that's
right, and if
we're
taking submission as of tonight, because here's the harsh reality, guys.
Yeah.
All of us have lives, all of us have stuff going on, so we can't always be around to provide support, development, etc. So we need some more devs and support groups and all that kind of thing, people. So if you want to do that, I will put my my linuxstormos at Gmail address I'll send it to the Telegram group, and if you want to reach out there or whatever, just let us know, and we will bring you into Discord and be happy to talk to you.
Sweet. Yep. Well, thank you very much. It's nice to see
also, if you want to put my email in the description of the video, go right ahead, so that way people have easier access if they don't, if they're not in the
put it in the chat, and then I'll put it in the email in the show notes.
You mean in the YouTube chat?
In the meeting chat, the Zoom chat.
Okay, that'll work.
Because that's the main form that we use for StormOS.
Okay, cool. Well, fantastic.
Sent it.
Well, thank you very much for that that little demonstration, and
yes,
that should be cool. So yeah, yeah, there we go. Well, excellent. Well, I hope that next week, let me know how the how it all tastes, and we can throw it on the schedule from there. So,
Thank you.
all right, cool beans. Excellent. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and go into the last call here because it is that time. I don't know if anybody had anything else they wanted to push or say. Adam, if you're doing like a video series on running a 486 in a data center, that would be really cool. That's just my, I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah.
And then he ran away. So there's that. Yeah, so if you haven't already checked out Linux User Space, the season 5 has kicked off. So go check that out.
When does that happen, Nate? Out of
It
curiosity?
already this past Monday was the first episode that came out for season 5.
So Monday will be episode 2, from what I understand.
No, it's every 2 weeks, so it should be next week.
So next week. Got it.
Yep.
Gotcha.
I'm on a podcast called Linux Out Loud. We didn't record last week because Wendy lost her voice, and I think we lost Matt.
Oh,
I haven't heard from Wendy. It's been a long dang on time.
Yeah, she's out there.
All right.
I have a website called cubicalnate.com. I do things sometimes. So I haven't, a little behind right now because of work stuff. But anyway, so you can check that out if you like. So Saloon is part of the Tux Digital Network, so check out more great shows at tuxdigital.com. I want to thank you all for your support, however you do it, being a part of this conversation, both the Zoom meeting or the YouTube stream, as well as everyone watching the show after the fact. I want to thank everyone involved in making the Linux and open source tools possible for us to not only have this conversation, but to have fun and enjoy our technology. Linux truly puts personal back in a personal computer. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers. And please remember to Linux responsibly. Until next time, see yous.
Peace out, everybody.
guys.
Good night, everyone.